Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's presentation, Nudibranchs, the Ocean's Living Rainbows, is brought to you by NatHab Expedition Leader Melissa Silva. Melissa is a marine biologist who has been guiding nature adventures in Mexico since 2012 and recently joined NatHab's team in the Central Highlands to lead monarch butterfly migration expeditions. She focused part of her studies on nudibranchs and is currently working on her master's thesis on seahorse mating behavior. Based in Puerto Vallarta, Melissa combines her marine biology expertise with broader naturalist knowledge to share wildlife conservation through nature encounters with travelers from around the world. Melissa, thanks so much for being here today. The show is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Rob. Very excited to be here today. And yeah, just as you mentioned, one of my focus group on the during my college years were nudibranchs. I was just remembering. I was looking for photos of that time, and I couldn't find them because it is almost 17 years ago. Believe it or not. And I remember I was actually pregnant with my first child, and I wanted to go outside in the water and do stuff there. And then my mom talked to me, and my teachers talked to me, and they said, like, Melissa, you cannot go like in the wild as you are used to. So try to find something that settles with the pregnancy. And I found this lab with a doctor, Patricia, I remember Salazar, and she was working with polychaetes that are worms, polychaete worms, and they live in the intertidal zone, in the when you have like the high tide and the low tide, that's the intertidal zone. And she was like digging in the area and turning the rocks to check for the polychaetes. And she mentioned to find the nudibranchs, the opistobranchs, and other slugs. And there were other studies in the area, and she told me like, well, you could work with those, and it's in the lab basically, because it's just like make a review of the bibliography we had in the years, and just compare with the findings in the area. So that was actually like the reason why I focus on nudibranchs. And definitely I fell in love with them. I hope you fell in love with them as well with this webinar, because of course they are pretty, but they are very complex, and they are more than just pretty faces, you will see. And a lot of my colleagues and a lot of people in general, like general public, not only marine biologists, they focus like in this charismatic species, in this like the great white shark. This is powerful, big, impressive. So a lot of people is like, oh yeah, I love sharks, they are my favorite animals. Then humpback whales, they are mammals, so they are very related to us. We feel this affinity towards them. Sea turtles, I think they are very beautiful as well. So people try always like focusing on this. And if you are only like visiting the ocean, I'm pretty sure you have seen the tropical coral reefs. So you see the colors, you see the fish, you find some of these other big animals living around the place. So we always think in ocean life like on these big representatives, like the coral reef, the turtles, the fish, the mammals. But then there are other creatures, and I think I've been talking about them in the previous webinars as well, with the corals, with the sponges. There are other creatures that are also very beautiful and very important. One of those are the nudibranchs, or nudibranches as well. These animals, I will go on their characteristics, but they have been with us for around 100 million years now, and most of them are marine. They mostly live in seawater, in the oceans. although some can be found also in brackish water or fresh water, but right next to the coast, like in the coastal lagoons or these streams or um, springs that we have of fresh water right next to the ocean. They live mostly on benthic areas. They are bottom feeders, let's say. They feed on the bottom areas. They are crawling on the bottom of the ocean, associated to pretty much any type of habitat, coral reefs, sponges, the tidal pools, sandy bottoms, and they are found anywhere in the world, like any place except the coldest, like the Antarctic and the Arctic oceans. They don't really thrive there because there's not enough food, but they could tolerate colder environments, as you see the distribution map. So these beautiful animals, so far we have described around 3,000 different species of nudibranchs. Some researchers say that we are underestimating the numbers because there's not enough study of them in their taxonomic is the topic, and they say they can be more than 6,000 that we still don't know, and that the estimation of the total number of species can be more or up to 10,000 nudibranchs. So the difficult the difficulty of studying the nudibranchs is because most of them are very small. The average size is about 2 inches. So it's like 2 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 2 inches, or less than 1 inch, around 70% of them. There are some exceptions that are around 5 inches long, which is like 12 centimeters, 15 centimeters. And but in general, they are very small, and they usually are, as I mentioned, on the bottom of their habitats. So this is something that was confusing for some people that I was talking to about the nudibranchs. All the nudibranchs are sea slugs. Usually when you think about the sea slugs, you say, see, the nudibranchs. Well, yeah, they are sea slugs, but not all the sea slugs are nudibranchs. So why is that? Because we have within the gastropod group, the gastropoda class, we have the snails, the slugs, and the sea slugs. We have two different groups within another subdivision that is called heterobranchia. Years ago, when I was doing this research in college, they were called opistobranchia. So it was difficult for me to like make up my mind again to say like they are not opistobranchs, they are heterobranchs. And actually the specific group we're talking about is the Nudibranchia, is the group, the Nudibranchia sea slugs. So there's a lot of research going on right now. I will show you some sources on papers about the phylogenetics and the taxonomic classification is crazy. It's like a spider web. So we'll just take the Nudibranchia, but I want you to know also other sea slugs that sometimes are taken as nudibranchs, but they don't belong to the order Nudibranchia. One of those are the sea hares, the Anaspida order. They are herbivores. They live in shallow waters, usually in the tidal pools, and they produce ink as a way of defense. So these are very common. Actually, the most common sea hare is the Aplysia californica, and as the name says, it's in the California shore. And actually, that's one of the first sea slugs, not nudibranchs, that I saw in like even before studying marine biology. I remember in the tidal pool, and then I saw this strange crawly thing. And don't do it at home. I touch it, and it just like poop on my hand with the purple ink that took like 2 days to take off from my hand. So well, it was a fun experience. Poor little sea hare, but it was very, very beautiful. Another sea slug that sometimes is taken as nudibranch but is not is the sea angel. Is belonging to the group of species Cleone, and it belongs to the order Pteropoda. So this is actually a neritic, a free swimming sea slug, and they are predators, like voracious predators. You can see the tentacles here. They usually live in deep sea. They are not so associated to the coastal areas. They prefer to be like 800 to 1 kilometer of depth. So, well, they predate on other type of theropods, actually, another type of heterobranchians that is called sea butterfly. Pretty much they only feed on that. And this beautiful heterobranchs or gastropod sea slug is the sea sheep, Costaciela kuroshima. This is a photosynthetic because of kleptoplasty. This is one of the few photosynthetic animals, like true animals, that can steal the chloroplast from their food, from the algae they are feeding on, and they keep the chloroplast intact, place it in the top of their body, and the chloroplasts are still working on the photosynthesis and giving energy, nutrients to the animal. So this thing deserves a webinar on itself because it's crazy. It's one of the craziest things that you can find in the animal kingdom. So well, now you know all of those we saw, they are not nudibranchs. What is a nudibranch? Well, a nudibranch must have a bare gill or a naked gill. That's the literal translation of nudibranchia, naked gill. And the nudibranchia is a very complex, very complex, just like the heterobranchia group, because the division or the classification is not well established yet. So, so the general or the most, the classification that most of the researchers agree on is this one, that the order has two clades or suborders, but not like official suborders: the clade Doridacea and the clade Cladobranchia. So, well, let's go on each one of those, like these three divisions, because the Cladobranchia, as you can see, divides into the aeolid nudibranchs and dendronotid nudibranchs. So the names are complicated because the classification is also complicated, you will see. The general external anatomy of nudibranchs on either of the clades is this elongated body, one more than the other. Some of them present these extensions on their dorso, the serrata. Both of them have a foot, a muscular foot, so they can move on the bottom. They have these two groups have rhinophores, that are the sensitive appendages, or they have chemoreceptors. So these are their noses, eyes, ears, all of their receptors in one. And the main difference between these two groups, these two clades, is that the Cladobranchia clade has oral tentacles. Meanwhile, the Dorid clade doesn't have the oral tentacles. They are retracted, they are smaller, and they have a longer mantle with a very characteristic gill plume on the back of the body. Now, this looks like a joke, but it's not a joke, because actually sea slugs are blind. They do have little tiny, it's not even eyes, it's ocelli, a clump of cells that can tell apart light from dark, and that's it. They cannot see depth or color. So it's actually a shame that they are so bright and so colorful, they cannot see the colors of the other nudibranchs. So you can see the tiny ocelli here. Now, the Dorid nudibranch is like the typical nudibranch when we think about them. It is very colorful. Usually they are flat, more flattened than with other shape. They have a usually oval or elongated oval shape, and they have these two characteristic appendages, one on the dorsal area, on the cephalic area, and another one on the tail area. Uh, the first two tubercle-like appendages are called rhinophores, and those are the ones I'm telling you that are pretty much nose, ears, eyes. They detect all the chemics from the water, and they can tell where to go, what's going on around them, and if there's some food or a mate nearby. And of course, they have the fluffy gills disposition around the anus, believe it or not. So it's kind of weird to have the area where they breathe right next to where they excrete. But well, those are the nudibranchs, the dorid nudibranchs. So some examples for you to see how diverse this group is. The dorids usually have like 70-80% of all the identified species. And these are, well, as I said, one of the most characteristic type of nudibranch. See? Then the eolid nudibranchs, they also have this slug type, a little bit more elongated body, but they have these two cephalic tentacles plus the rhinophores that the dorid nudibranchs have. Also, they have all of these structures that you can see on the dorsal area, all these serrata, these like finger-like or hair-like structures on the dorsal. These are extensions of their guts, extensions of their digestive system, and they are highly specialized for protection. I will explain in a moment. Also, these are very diverse. They don't have as many species as the dorid nudibranchs, but still they have some of the most beautiful. Believe it or not, I double check, triple check. This is a real coloration in a nudibranch. Okay, so the rainbow sea slug is just crazy. And of course, a very well known, I'm pretty sure you all have seen this. I think there is a Pokemon inspiring this one. The blue dragon, the Glaucus atlanticus. And this is a very common way of represent the Glaucus atlanticus, but we are actually watching them from the belly. It's upside down. This is the dorsum area. This is the dorsal area of a blue dragon. The reason why they are upside down is because they are neritic. They are free swimmers. They don't crawl on the bottom of the sea. They are not feeding on sponges or corals, so they don't really need to be like on their normal position with the dorsal area facing the bottom. So just for you to know, when you see it again, you are actually seeing from above, you are seeing the bottom of a nudibranch. This has a very special diet. I will go on that in a moment. But first, let's keep with the dendronotid nudibranchs. These are, for me, at the end, when I finished putting all these photos together, is like, so you didn't know, like, for the researchers, you didn't know where to put all of these nudibranchs, and you just throw them in one clade, in one group, the dendronotid, because they are so variated. The main way of classify the nudibranchs, as you have seen, is because of the gills. So the dendronotid have the most diverse gill structures. They can be just like little thorn-like projections, very simple, or they can be like this. For me, this look a lot like a tree branch with a snow, like a snow branch on a tree in winter. So they are very diverse. Check this out. This is called grape dotto, as you can see. It does look like grapes all together here, green grapes. The Kamchatka dendronotid this is something that if you see it floating there or crawling there, on the first moment you might not see it because it just the size of this is about 1 centimeter, like an inch, a little bit less than half an inch. So it's very tiny. It's pretty much transparent, as you can see, and it mimics the hydrozoans that they are feeding on. So I'll go in a moment in the feeding behavior, but most of these, then the dendronotid nudibranchs, they tend to mimic what they are feeding on, so they avoid the predators. The Hancock's nudibranch, very common also on the west coast of the Americas, of the US, Mexico, usually in colder waters. And this one here, this is a crazy nudibranch. It's a specimen from a group that sometimes is called lion's mane nudibranchs, Fimbrina nudibranch, this one specific. And you can see on the center of the image this like clear extended area of the mantle that is called the cephalic veil. And specifically this group, this genera, the Tetis and the other one, Melibren, I think is the name of the lion's mane. Well, these are adapted, instead of like actively hunting and eating the prey, they are just like catching, kind of like fishing, like the fishermen when they are throwing the net, and the net opens, catches the fish. Is the same thing with this type of lion mane and Fimbria nudibranchs. They open their cephalic veil, they go down on the sand, and then everything that is there, of course, they start sucking, but everything gets scared. Amphipods, isopods, worms, any type of worms, smaller nudibranchs, and everything will come up in the mouth after. So, well, these are, let's go now into the feeding behavior. These are deadly beauties. All of them are predators. All of the nudibranchs feed on other animals. So you see them like super cute and colorful and delicate, but they are killing machines. They are predators, and some even are cannibals. Some eat other nudibranchs. Usually they try to eat other species, but if there is a smaller same species nudibranch and they are hungry, they will eat them. So here we can see Acromodoris eating Anaplesia sea slug. Nevertheless, they are picky. They are very picky eaters because they only predate on a certain type of animals that a lot of other species don't predate on because they are toxic or they are poisonous. Most of them are cnidarians, like the hydrozoans or the anemones or the corals, but they also predate on bryozoans, tunicates, and as I mentioned, even other nudibranchs. How they feed, how they make this feeding process, what the tool they use, it's a little scraper that is called radula. This is, I was trying like to make some examples. I have a video I will show you, but just so you can start imagining that. Have you ever been licked by a cat or a cow? Cats and cows have some papilla in their tongues, on top of their tongues, to clean their bodies, or the cows, for example, to get the food. So they have this papilla that is very rough on touch. The radula is pretty much the same, but upside down. The papilla on the cat tongue, for example, is facing up. So when they are licking the hair, the fur, they can clean. On the other hand, the radula on the snails, on the sea slugs, it's facing down because they are doing kind of like a bulldozer movement. So my son just allowed me to use his toys to show you. The radula goes a little bit like this. I don't know if you can see me doing the movement, kind of like a little pair of hands. So if that's not enough, let me show you a video. So you can see this is a snail Remember, the sea slugs and the freshwater snails, land snails, they all belong to the same gastropoda group. Let's say they are cousins, first degree cousins. They are very close related. So pretty much this is what we could see if we see a nudibranch doing so. So the radula, if you notice, is just like scavenging, like taking all this food from the substrate. Okay, and the radula is what they use to identify the species also, not only colors or before the genetic samples and the PCR experiments and investigation, they used these tiny radula teeth to identify the species. They are made of chitin, which is the same material as the shrimp shells, the chitin. ¿Qué más? And then the blue dragon that I was telling you that has a very specific diet. They usually feed on either this type of hydroid or the Portuguese man of war, that is a hydrozoa as well. And what they do, they are blue because they storage the nitrocyst that they steal from this food. This is a sequestration either of the nematocyst or of the toxin. All of the nudibranchs have this ability. Some are a little bit more specialized than others, and they have these special sacs on the top of the serrata, that is the nidosac, and inside the nidosac, intact, they have the cell that is the stealing cell, the nematocyst. So it passes intact through the stomach, through the gut, all the way to the serrata, to the nidosac. And if they are touched, they will work exactly as if you are touching a Portuguese man of war or a fire, the coral. So it's exactly the same, the same action. Okay, so the life cycle of a nudibranch. I want to make a parenthesis here because I found again this illustrator, this artist, Zoe Lawrence. I remember seeing her drawings with the seahorses when I was working also with seahorses, but I forgot her name. So finally I found her again, and I want to share with you her work because I mean, just check this red, is the nudibranch red. It's beautiful, and well, she did this specific infographic about the life cycle of nudibranchs. So well, something very cool about nudibranchs is that they are hermaphrodites. That means that they have both sexes in one body. And I was hearing a talk, a webinar with a specialist, and usually when you are an hermaphrodite animal, it's a lot of energy that you invest in being hermaphrodite because you have to produce both eggs and sperm. But since the sea slugs are let's say dense in the area where they live, they can find the mates a little bit easier rather than moving longer distances. And as soon as they find one another nudibranch from the same species, obviously, immediately they will exchange gametes. So they will exchange the eggs and they will exchange the sperm. And they were saying this is a weird handshake because the gonopore, the opening, the mating, the reproductive opening, is on the right side of the body. Here in this nudibranchs, the nudibranch on the left, we are seeing the gill, we are seeing the back, the tail of the nudibranch, and the nudibranch on the right, we are seeing the face. You can see the rhinophores right here. So you can see, like they say, it's a very weird handshake because yeah, they just exchange immediately the gametes. It's a mutual fertilization. And well, they also have beautiful eggs. The egg mass is placed in this kind of like laces or ribbons in the ocean, usually in a circular, in a elliptical way, the other way, clock contract clockwise, not the same, it's from left to right, right to left. And they also have vibrant colors. They are usually laid on the same area where they need to feed, where the babies need to feed. And the amount of eggs that they lay depends on many factors. One of the most important is temperature of the water and abundance of food. So the same species, the same nudibranch, like the same individual, can lay in one clutch, I don't know, 1,000 eggs, and on the next one, 100, just to say some numbers. But it depends on the amount of food and the temperature of the environment as well. So this is a very beautiful photo that I wanted to share with you, because we see the hydroids, we see all these polyps covered with the eggs of a nudibranch named Doto grenamieri. The common name is donut sea slugs, and it's right here on the left side of the photo. We can see the nudibranch, the adult nudibranch. So it's a very nice photo. And one thing that nudibranchs have in common with all the other the gastropods and the slugs, sea slugs, land slugs, is that they have a floating larva or swimming larva with the shells, actually. So once the eggs eclode, they are these tiny shell larvae that are called veliger larvae, and they swim around. They are swimming, eating, looking for the best spot to land, and then they go into a metamorphosis. This is something crazy, because it's a parenthesis. The snails, the land snails, go under something called torsion. This is like if you lay down and then you take your foot, right foot with your left hand, and the left foot with your right hand, and then you try to bring all of those like to the front of your body, pretty much to have like your butt right next to your head. That is the torsion that all the snails go under, and they have the shape of the shell because of that torsion. Now, I close the parenthesis. Nudibranchs during the larval phase go under that torsion, but then when they lose the shell, they go under a detorsion. So they kind of like untwist and have the nudibranch shape. So I hope I make sense, but this was something crazy that I didn't know in 20 years. So well, this is a microphotography of a veliger larvae, so you have like more, a little bit more of a real image, and well, just a silly joke about the nudibranchs. This is I really like this website, greenhumor.com, because most of their jokes are related, of course, to biology, to ecology, with real facts, and that they are like very silly but pretty. So well, the nerdy section of our webinar. As I mentioned, the classification is crazy, just like the colors and shapes of nudibranchs. This article was published very recently, July 2025, 4 of July 2025. And the conclusion the authors got to was that the systematics within Nudibranchia needs further revision. So pretty much we are in the same spot. I mean, maybe some steps ahead, but still wondering how they relate in terms of evolution and adaptation within the Nudibranchia group, or if they are nudibranchs or opistobranchs or heterobranchia. So this thing is still going on in terms of taxonomy. Then another papers that I wanted to share with you are these that work with the molecular area of the nudibranch group to check how the photosymbiosis on the nudibranchs can be extrapolated to other photosymbiosis in general in the animal kingdom. Because very recently we learned that there are some salamanders that can capture chloroplast as well. So we are crazy. Then this is a very interesting paper because they use this 3D model of a nudibranch to prove or to give a new hypothesis on how the gills of the dorid group, the most common one with the two rhinophores on the front and the plume gills on the back, how it was originated and how they evolved through the years. So they use all of these models and also some other molecular tests. If you want to take a look on that. Then they are also studying how the color is made for the nudibranchs, of course, something so important, so noticeable. Most of the color comes from pigments that they either produce or absorb, sequestrate from their food. But some other colors are structural, pretty much like the color from hummingbird feathers. The color on the hummingbird feathers is because of the structures that are making the feather. So it's actually how the light insides in it and how we see the light through the feathers or the reflection. Pretty much they found out that some nudibranchs have structures associated to the guanine, and the distribution that they have is how they get the color. So it's a lot of optics there, and you can go and check. It's open access as well. This article, the one on the right, the traveling around the Mediterranean Sea, this is about how, I don't know if you heard, parenthesis, another story, when they opened the Panama Channel, some species that were in the Atlantic pass to the Pacific and vice versa. So we actually had like competition and problems between local species with the new exotic species from the other ocean. Bueno, so the same thing happens here. I close the parentheses. This study is checking a specific bryozoan, Amatia verticillata, that is present on the Mediterranean. You can see all these ats, red ats is where the bryozoan is sampled. But then there are some, as it says, non-indigenous, that means exotic nudibranchs, and other endemic nudibranchs to the Mediterranean Sea. So this specific paper checks how the effect of these non-indigenous, of the exotic nudibranchs in the endemic populations of the nudibranch associated to the bryozoan, how this movement of bringing usually is without thinking, like in the ships or in the cruise ships, on the boats, fishing boats, you have all of those, what are those, like alien passengers, pretty much, and then they are dropped in areas where they cause damages to the local both predators and prey. So pretty much that's the goal of this article, to check how this population dynamics is working. Y bueno, I can talk about a lot of other stuff, but it's usually better to see like the videos and then some experts of nudibranchs. These are some of the videos I checked to get some information for the webinars. The one that I like the best, well, because it's super nerd, is this one from the Victoria National Parks Association, In Search of Sea Slugs. It's pretty much a webinar with specialized in a nudibranch census that they make in Australia. And this thing is crazy because they explain even more stuff, and how citizen science is so important also for the nudibranchs, like people snorkeling, divers, recreational divers, uh, just checking where the nudibranchs are and then sending those photos and the location, all the information is helping on the identification of new species and the distribution of the species that we already know. The other one that I like a lot is this one, The Perfect Animal, Why Nudibranchs Are Impressively Good at Existing. This is a YouTube channel named Real Science. It has many other, I strongly recommend you. And this one here, they have an interview with a nudibranch expert from the, I think it's the Pasadena University. I don't remember exactly the university in California, but this, he explains like all the, pretty much like what I explained here, but with deeper knowledge and in a more detailed way. And these two websites, the one on the bottom first, the nudibranchdomain.org, I took a lot of information and photos from that. And what I like about it is that they are giving free chapters available from a book named Understanding Nudibranchs by David Mullins. And this is something very easy to understand. It has very beautiful photos, and more like the bibliography that you have there, you can have more information on specific groups of the nudibranchs. The website on the top, EBB Tide Toys. This thing is so beautiful. These are plushy toys. These are like stuffed animals, stuffed nudibranchs made out of some parts of recycled plastic bottles. And they only have these 4 species right now, but they have stickers and they have magnets and label pins, I think. So just take a look on that. They have information about the nudibranchs, about projects that you can be part of. You can check if it's in your area. But well, this is a very beautiful, I think this is a very beautiful present for Christmas, if you know what I mean. And I think that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if you have any questions, Rob.
Well, Melissa, thank you. So before we dive into the questions, I would like to remind everyone that if you do have them, you can submit them via the question field in your control panel. Just go ahead to the upper right-hand corner and click on those 3 lines. It'll open up all the fields, go down to questions, and that's where the questions should be submitted. All right. So do we know why they are called nudibranchs? It sounds like it's a plant rather than an animal.
Yeah, nudibranch is just because of the naked gills. All of these organisms have, well, this one would be like the best. These are the gills. So, you know, fish have gills. They are in here covered with an ostick or something strong and protective. Nudibranchs evolve, even just a closer example. The snails from your garden, they have the shell protecting the gills. So the gills are inside the cavity. The nudibranchs have the shell, the gills completely exposed. They are naked. So the name, you know, it's Greek, Latin. The name nudibranchia literally means naked gills. So that's why they are called nudibranchs.
Aha. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. So what preys on them? What is their main predator?
Well, the main predator would be fish that can tolerate the pungency, the nematocysts that they have, but also sea turtles. Believe it or not, the sea turtles would be one of the main predators, because most of the sea turtles that are feeding on the area where they live, they can tolerate the same thing that the either the toxin or the nematocyst that they have. Other predators are, of course, the nudibranchs, other nudibranchs, octopus, crabs, fish, turtles. Pretty much that would be like crustaceans, the octopus, and fish and other nudibranchs. Those would be.
Thank you for that. So, how was it determined that the nudibranchs are almost blind? And if they are almost blind and they can't see each other, does that affect their coloring at all?
No, they were studying here. I don't know if you can notice on this photo on the center. I could make it a little bit bigger. 1 second. Right there. So right here, we have the cephalic tentacles, we have the rhinophores, and right here, you can see a little lighter area with a dark dot. You can see it. So that little dot is the eye. Of course, the taxonomy, the zoologists, and all these people that is studying them on microscopic level, they were dissecting specimens and checking what is this for what this is or the function of each one of the parts. And they came to the conclusion that this is a very, very primitive eye, the little dot. So they cannot see actually the ocelli, the clump of cells that perceive only light and shade. They are under the skin, they are under the mantle. So they have this skin protection above them, and they only perceive those those characteristics, shade and light. And what was the other part of the question, Rob?
Do we know why they have such bright colors?
Because it's called aposematic coloration. For example, this one, they are warning predators, not other nudibranchs, but in general other predators rather than nudibranchs. And just like monarch butterflies that have these contrasting colors, just like the coral snake that has also contrasting color. So that means that they are either poisonous, they taste bad, or that they are toxic. That's the only reason why they have. And others, for example, will have this coloration to mimic the area where they live. So if they live in a very colorful area, like a very colorful coral reef area, they will have a very colorful display as well to mimic with the environment.
Are there toxins? Are they harmful to humans, or do they have any benefits?
Yeah, that more than harmful to humans, because we wouldn't eat sea slug. But for example, the nudibranchs with the cerata, all of these groups, the olives, they will have the nematocyst on their bodies. If you touch them or squeeze them and they feel scared, they are harmed, they will sting you, just like the corals, just like the jellyfish. Pretty much it will be the same reaction. So if you are extremely sensitive to that, you will have a very extreme reaction. Otherwise, they don't really harm you if you touch them. They are useful. Those specific products are useful. I was reading some proteins that they produce when they are producing their protection. Not only remember I was telling you about the nematocyst sequestration or the toxin sequestration. There are some other species that can actually create toxins from their food. They do process their toxins and then they modify them into something else to protect themselves. Those proteins, those toxins, are studied because they can stop the development of cancer cells. So there's a very specific area on biomedics that is studying some toxins from nudibranchs to develop some oncologic treatments. So I think that was the question.
Yes, that's fascinating. Thank you for that. That's well,
okay.
So could you talk about their reproductive cycle for a moment? How do they choose mates, or is it just taking advantage of opportunity?
See, this is just the opportunity. They are no, for eating, they are picky, but for mating, they are not. As long as it is another individual from the same species, they're going to mate. So even if it's one a little bit bigger than the other, or whatever, I mean, as long as they are the same species, they will always exchange gametes. They will always have this weird handshake, as they said, because I mean, it's part of the reason why they have the two gonads together. So they take any opportunity they have to mate, and then they can continue the population stable. So yeah, they are not picky for mating, and they detect the mates with the rhinophores as well. So they will excrete some chemics, some pheromones, or some scent into the water, and they will track it, and they say, oh, if there's another individual from my same species, I will go in that direction. Once they meet, they mate.
And can you talk a little bit about the reproductive cycle, how long it takes for them to gestate and give birth?
Some weeks. So the fertilization, like the actual act, it doesn't take more than 1 hour. So they find each other, they recognize as the same species, they exchange gamete, and that's it. 1 hour, hour and a half. Then to fertilize the eggs and lay the eggs, maybe other 3 hours, more or less. The development of the egg, like the incubation up to the eclosion of the belliger larvae, it can take up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It depends on water temperature, water pH, and pretty much that's it. Temperature and pH of the water. So if they have the good conditions, it would be maybe less days, 2 weeks. If they have not the best conditions, I don't know, colder or warmer water, or a lower or higher pH, it will take more days than that. Later on, some weeks, 2 or 3, once again, to be a free swimming larvae, and the metamorphosis occurs a couple of days, and then they become a crawling nudibranchs. The whole life cycle, since they hatch, since they are little egg, until they pretty much die in natural circumstances, it's around 1 year, more or less, for the nudibranchs in general.
Great. Thank you for that detailed explanation. We appreciate it. So if I wanted to see a nudibranch, does NatHab offer any trips where we can actually see them or interact with them?
Yeah, like any trip that we have that offers snorkeling opportunities is an opportunity to see a nudibranch. The one that I always think of is Galapagos, but if you snorkel outside of Monterey Bay, for example, California is the closest one I can think of. The water is cold, the currents may be strong, maybe very the visibility not so well, but you will find, if you look carefully, there are nudibranchs in that area. So if you are traveling with NatHab to Madagascar, I think we have snorkeling in Madagascar in one of the trips. But well, to Galapagos, just to put it very easy, ask your guide, hey, I would like to see some crazy nudibranchs. Where should I look for? From the surface, you can spot them because they are very bright color, even though they mimic with the rest, or they are tiny. But from the surface, I've seen them when I was working in Puerto Vallarta. I remember seeing them. So, I mean, you just need to train your eyes a little bit and ask your expedition leader. One of my goals is to see a nudibranch, and they will find it for you. I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. We
Yes.
never even, a lot of us never knew they existed. So this is pretty interesting. So any plans to talk about seahorses sometime? There was a few people asking for you to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Why not? See, I can do that. More than
Excellent.
happy. More than happy.
Give the people what they want, right?
Yes, of course.
Well,
Thank you.
Melissa, that's going to be about the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for some closing comments.
Yes, I wanted to show you this meme. I found it so funny. I don't know why. I have a silly sense of humor, but this is a like a screenshot from Carpool Karaoke or something like that as a show, and what I take from this is that we have the land slugs like all bland and like all dull, not very shiny and bright. And then we have the sea slugs that are all flashy and colorful. But what I wanted to say that they are more than just a pretty face. I mentioned that at the beginning. It's not only that they are pretty, they are also, I mean, any living being is important for the nature that is around them. But well, it's better if they are pretty.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for that, Melissa. This is a great picture. That was hysterical. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to present for us today. This was really
Thank you.
fascinating. And I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. So look, if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at 800-543-8917, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on the website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. So long, everybody. We'll see you next time.